Thank you for everybody who's tuned in again to our second session on Namibia. Namibia, of course, to me is the land of incredible, majestic landscapes, incredible contrasts, beautiful nature. It's these huge, vast open spaces. Which really just makes it such an incredible destination, and one that is so unique because of the fact that it incorporates both desert, game, and then, as I mentioned last week, going into the Caprivi is incredible river and waterways. So for those of you who were with us last week, I did a very brief introduction to this massive country. Quite a task to cover a little snippets of the whole country in half an hour, but we did manage to do it. And this week what I'm going to do is focus you on this southern section here of Namibia, just to try and give you a better idea of what an itinerary around the Southern Circuit itinerary would look like. So I think let's just start off by saying again, Windhoek is the capital city of Namibia and would be your international entrance point into any Namibian itinerary. There are flights. Namibia is open. Currently borders are open, and there are flights traveling into Namibia both international and from Johannesburg one can fly into Namibia, so also very easy access point if you fly into Johannesburg, and from there it's about a 2.5-hour flight from Johannesburg landing in Windhoek. So if you had to, Windhoek is generally not a place that you would spend a lot of time, but depending on your flights you may need to either overnight the first night or the last night in Windhoek in order to connect with international flights. So
can I just add, Nikki? For if you are based in Singapore or in this region where you want to, you have to fly into Namibia, before you start your program, you have to arrive 1 day in advance. Okay, yeah, 1 day in advance, because by the time you fly in, you should be just in time to check into your hotel. So about 1 p.m. or so. Yeah, so it's good to rest for a day before you set off. Yeah.
That's it. So most of the time we will include a first night in Windhoek and potentially a last night in Windhoek, so that you can really, if you arrive at lunchtime, so that you can just settle in and catch up before heading out the next day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you further south. We're going to head down in this direction towards Marienthal, towards the area around the Kalahari Desert. So the Kalahari is a massive desert landscape, and in fact it incorporates it is in Botswana, the eastern side of Namibia, as well as the northern or parts of South Africa, in fact. So to travel from Windhoek down to, I'm going to take you to Into Africa Game Lodge, sort of relatively close by to Marienthal. It's about it's 250 kilometers, so about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive, easy drive down to this area in the Kalahari Desert. Quite a nice way to start your trip, because as I said, even if you do arrive earlier in the morning, certainly you can collect a car and get straight down here, provided obviously your flight arrives early enough. But a nice easy drive on good roads down to this area around Marienthal. So the Kalahari, in this area, the Kalahari Desert area, it's fairly well known for the San, or the Bushmen. Bushmen traditionally have lived generations and generations in this dry desert landscape. And one of the most incredibly interesting things to do is to go for a walk with the San people. They are nomadic hunter-gatherers, and their knowledge that they've gained over generations is just incredible. They can talk you through what roots you can eat and what roots you can't eat, where to gather seeds and berries. They are the most incredible hunters and trackers. They'll track down game over kilometers. and just really using the landscape, the stars, the moon to be able to guide them. They've really got such incredible knowledge over the years. So to go out on a walk with them is a humbling experience. Incredible to listen to their click language as they explain things. So they literally speak through clicking. And obviously you would have someone who will translate for you, but just to share their culture, their heritage, and their stories is really a wonderful, wonderful experience. So other activities to do here are, this is in a massive 10,000 hectare nature reserve. They have lots and lots of plains game, springbok, hemsbok, ostrich, giraffe, zebra, and many other buck on the premises. And you can do morning and evening game drives in open 4x4 vehicles. You can also go quad biking here, which is also a wonderful way to just experience the vastness of this landscape, is to get on a quad bike and go out. You can get quite close up to the animals. You can go cycling in this reserve. And then to me, one of the most incredible things is to do what they call a dune dinner, where they'll set up dinner for you on top of one of the dunes, and you just sit there and watch the most incredible sunset out in this vast open space. Watching the stars at night is just so incredible in Namibia. So that would be, if you had to include night 1 as being your first night in Windhoek, this would be night 2 of your itinerary. So we're then going to head further south towards the Fish River Canyon. So this day would be approximately 5 hours, 5.5 hours of driving from there down to the Fish River Canyon. However, it is broken up. So for those of you who were in our session last week, you may remember I spoke a little bit about the quiver tree forest. So this is near Keetmanshoop. And again, just the most incredible spectacle. These quiver trees, or koekerbome in Afrikaans, look a little bit like an upside down tree. And they're called quiver trees because the Bushmen traditionally used to use the branches of these and hollow out the branches to make their quivers for their bow and arrow. And here you have what we call the quiver tree forest. I think there's about 250 of these quiver trees in a particular area, just making it quite striking actually in this sort of huge deserty landscape. And then very close by we have what we call the Giant's Playground, which is an area with huge granite boulders. Again, just so striking in this huge sort of vast landscape. So really beautiful to stop at both of these two places en route down to the Fish River Canyon. So I'm going to take you to Canyon Lodge. I think what I love about this is just, if you can see here in this bottom left-hand picture, this is an aerial photograph of Canyon Lodge. And here you can really see, if I didn't tell you that there was a lodge there, you would never guess that there was any sort of hotel in this landscape. So these rooms are totally built in amongst these huge, large granite boulders. And they totally merge into the landscape around here. Here is just in the top left, top left, you can see how the chalets are built totally in amongst the rocks, which really just makes it incredible. And then you can see, you know, they've obviously grassed certain areas, the main sort of areas and the main walkways between the rooms. Incredible rim flow pool. Large pool, which is just a lovely place to just be and look out over the terrain in front of you. And then activities here at the Fish River Canyon. I did mention last week, Fish River Canyon is the 3rd largest canyon in the world and the largest canyon in Africa. It stretches over about 160 kilometers in length. And at its widest point is about 27 kilometers across, about 500 odd meters deep. And a really incredible place just to go walking. So activities in this area revolve around walking trails and horse riding, Obviously, they do trips down to the viewpoints in and around that area. There are, in particular, 2 really spectacular viewpoints looking down over the canyon. And there is, I did mention last week as well, there is an incredible 5-day walking trail through the Fish River Canyon. Again, you do have to take everything with you, so it's not a stroll in the park. It's definitely a trail that you need to be quite fit for. But it does get booked up at least a year in advance. Very popular walking trail. However, for those of you, most of us, I would imagine, you don't need to be doing a 5-day walking trail. There are some amazing, shorter walks that you can do from the hotels in the area. Right, so from Fish River Canyon, we're going to head across to the small coastal town of Luderitz. Luderitz is a small fishing village built into a beautiful little bay on the southwestern coast of Namibia. It's got quite a colonial, sort of German colonial feel about it. Very well known for its incredible seafood, and you really can dine out on oysters and crayfish and all different, langoustines and prawns. Really great seafood platters here in this area. The Nest Hotel is just beautifully situated right, as you can see, sort of right on a rocky outcrop. It's got its own little private beach and a gorgeous little jetty or pier that runs out here. So quite a nice little spot to be right on the beachfront there. There's lots of fishing that goes on in this area, and you've got lots of seals and dolphins in the bay as well. Driving from Fish River Canyon through to Luderitz is about a 4.5-hour drive. You would go across through the little town of Aus, which is a small little German settlement. And last week I mentioned that driving along this route, hopefully you've got a fairly good chance of seeing the wild desert horses. It's one of the only places where you find totally desert adapted horses, and there's about 250 of them that live totally wild in this area. They do sort of hang around, in certain areas along the road, and there's one area which is constantly fed by water, like a drinking hole. So you can certainly have a fairly good chance of seeing them. So this would be, going back to our itinerary, if we did 1 night Windhoek, 1 night in the Kalahari, you would have now done 1 night at the Fish River Canyon. So probably spending the morning around Fish River Canyon, exploring the area, going to the viewpoints, possibly doing a little bit of a walk, and then heading through to Luderitz to get there late afternoon and spend your first night in Luderitz. So I know for the photographers amongst you, the big highlight really of Luderitz is coming to Colemans Corp. So I did speak a little bit about Colemans Corp last week, but for those of you who weren't around last week, let me just explain a little bit about Colemans Corp. Absolutely fascinating little totally deserted town. So Colemans Corp was in about 1908, diamonds were found in this little area. And all of a sudden there was sort of this massive rush to go and find, to find diamonds. So sort of between the time of about 1908 and World War I, there was suddenly this little booming, very, very wealthy town developed in the area. I did a little bit of research just on some statistics around Colemans Corp, and at the height of the diamond mining town, of the diamond mining at that time, there were about 1,300 residents living in Colemans Corp, and they found about 1,000 kilograms of diamonds there, which at the time was about 11% of the total world's diamonds found. Apparently, over the time of Colemans Corp, about 5 million carats of diamonds were found in this area. Unfortunately, just after World War diamonds were found further south, close to in Aranyament, which is close to the Orange River. And so all of a sudden, everybody literally headed south and deserted this town. And by 1956, it was totally deserted. But during its prime time, it was supposed to be, I've heard that it was the highest per capita wealth in the world. The people there literally there were these huge, majestic houses. They had a ballroom, they had a bowling alley, they had a sports center, they had schools, and hospitals, and it was really a very, very wealthy little town. They had this huge ice making factory there where they would obviously make ice. They brought in water. There was a tram that connected it to Luderitz. So Colemans Corp is about 10 kilometers outside of Luderitz. And at one stage it really was a booming town. They used to bring in opera singers from Germany to come and sing in the ballroom. Yeah, it must have been a fascinating little place. Today, however, it literally is totally and utterly deserted. So as you can see from these photographs, you have the sands that are now moving in from the desert, and literally sort of flowing right through these mansions. And I thought, Julian, I know you have been to Colemans Corp, and maybe you want to share a little bit of how you, from a photographic perspective, your feelings on Colemans Corp.
Yeah, it's in fact a magnificent place for photographers, especially landscape photographers and black and white photographers who like to do black and white pictures. This is an excellent place. But I would actually recommend that this place is nice if you go there right early in the morning or late in the evening because of the angle of the light that is coming from the sun. And then I guess for weather-wise, you don't really need to worry, because generally the blue skies are there, and you will be able to get your light and shadow photos, which is really, really nice, So my suggestion is that if you are going there, try not to rush yourself into the trip, because Namibia is a very big country. So if you underestimate the time for you to get to a certain destination, for example, okay, you might spend a lot of time traveling and not enough time to actually view the sites. So it's good that you can stay over in Luderitz, okay, which is actually just 10 kilometers away from this place, for one night. And then next morning, quickly, you can get onto the place. Just make the opportunity to get the first light, for example, okay, and you will have wonderful, beautiful pictures from there. So the other thing is that just remember when you're at this place, don't change lenses, okay? If you can, bring along 2 camera bodies, maybe one to shoot black and white, one with with color, for example, or you can just switch your color profile as and when if you save that into your camera. And the other thing is that wide angle lenses will be quite interesting here. So my recommendation is that you can use wide angle as wide as 12 mm, or generally people have the 14 or the 16 mm, which is really beautiful. And you must remember to bring this along, okay? Yeah, back to you, Nikki.
Okay, sure. So you need a permit to get in here because it is part of the diamond mining area. There's still a lot of diamonds mined in the southern coast, the southwestern coast of Namibia, specifically around the Aranyament area. It is still totally a diamond mining area, and you can't get in there unless you have a diamond permit. Here you need to get a permit in Luderitz, and then that you can come through here and spend a couple of hours on a guided tour of.
Yeah, Nikki, just to sidetrack a little bit, I know that you can actually go diamond hunting in Namibia, right? You can arrange for that. Yeah, and you can actually also do a dive along Skeleton Coast with a diamond hunter, and then if you can find like maybe a huge diamond, that will belong to you after that.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah. So guys,
okay.
If you are interested, please look out for that. Okay.
All right, so what I would suggest is doing a morning tour of Colemans Corp, like you said, and then heading back to Luderitz in the afternoon. And then from there, the next morning, heading out towards Southern. So we spoke a little bit about Southern last week. I don't want to repeat too much, But Sossusvlei is really part of the Namib Park. We're going to focus on, I'm just going to show you 2 different lodges in the area. And I know one of the things that was brought up last week was proximity to the dunes. And I totally understand that for photographers, getting to the dunes early in the morning as the sun is rising is really important. So Dead Valley Lodge is situated just inside the entrance to the Namib Park. Meaning that you can get up early in the morning and do and get through to the dunes. This is a beautiful little lodge, 20 rooms, and as you can see, these rooms are just beautifully situated with the most magnificent views over the landscape here. So this is really what you're going to Sossusvlei for. Sossusvlei has got the highest sand dunes in the world. This dune is Dune 45, about 322 meters high. And you can walk up this dune up to the top and just sitting there, and the incredible, you can see the colors of these dunes. The colors of these dunes are just so magnificent. I think that's what makes it just so incredible from a photographic point of view, but just being here, the shifting colors of this whole area is just so totally beautiful. Here around it, you get what they call dead flay. So this is a large clay pan. And these are these sort of dead acacia trees that are scattered all around the pan, and then again surrounded by your massively beautiful orange color dunes. It just, the starkness of just the whole environment and the quiet in the area is really just so beautiful to be there. So one of the other lodges I'm just going to tell you about is Kalahari Desert Lodge. So the great thing about Kalahari is they're on a private concession. And this private concession is situated just outside the Namib Park, but they have their own entrance into the Namib Park, which means they can go straight through there really early in the mornings. This in fact is the closest lodge to Dune 45 and to Dead Pan. It's made up of, they've got Kalahari Desert Lodge and then Little Kalahari, which is their small little sister property. Kalahari is made up of 20 rooms. Each of them is thatched with canvas tents. They are built onto little wooden platforms. And what makes these really amazing is that each of them has got if you go up these ladders, they've got a beautiful sort of a rooftop terrace where you can sleep at night under the stars. So you can choose to sleep totally out in the open under the stars, or if you're not happy with that, you can go back down and climb into your bed under the thatched roof. Really a most absolutely beautiful property. The main lodge, you can see, has got a sort of a wraparound 360-degree veranda, beautiful swimming pool, and it's just all sort of made of timber and just beautifully designed little lodge.
Hey, Nikki. I know that you put in the lodge, especially for Derek, right? Yeah, Derek is here also with us today. He will ask about the questions of which lodge would be good.
Indeed.
Yeah, which is actually nearest to the dune, and there you go, Derek. That is the one that you should.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's it. That's why I did. So I know it's important to be close by. I would say those certainly Kalahari is really exceptional, and because of the fact that it has its own entrance to the dunes, it really makes it a very interesting property to go and visit.
Yeah. If
So
I'm not mistaken, it's half an hour, right? About half an hour.
It's close. It's really great. Yeah. So just coming back to some of the activities on offer, for example, if you're staying at Kalahari, obviously they do activities to the dunes, which is obviously one of the prime activities in the area. Apart from that, they've got fat bikes, so you can go on incredible cycling trips here through the landscape. You can go quad biking in the area. The starlit skies are just absolutely incredible. You can imagine that being here in this desert landscape there's absolutely no light interference from anywhere. So, you know, to be here at night and looking up at the stars is really incredible. And obviously they will explain you know, all the stars to you, and teach you about the Southern Hemisphere stars. One of the other fabulous things to do in this area is hot air ballooning. So this is a early morning activity. Always they go up normally just before the sun rises, or in fact as the sun is rising, obviously to get the right lift. They go up as the sun is rising, and just to float in total silence up above the desert is just absolutely beautiful. Watching the different colors of the desert as the sun rises and moves across, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. And then you normally come down sort of around 9 o'clock. Normally they welcome you down with a glass of champagne and some snacks before going back to the lodge. This can be booked through various of the lodges, and it's an additional activity not included in the rates.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, you have all the wildlife in the area, and it's just an amazing thing to go on a walking safari or on a sort of a game drive vehicle and just see all the desert adapted fauna and flora. So, you know, a lot of people say, is there any game in the area? There is definitely game in the area. Obviously, it's not your big five game. It's not, you know, there's not massive amounts of it, but certainly to walk through here with a guide who can teach you about, you know, the insects and the reptiles. And of course, there's lots of buck, lots of springbuck, lots of gemsbok, ostrich. It's really beautiful. But for me here, it's about the small desert adapted animals in the area that really makes it interesting. So Sossusvlei is a definite must, I would say, on any itinerary into Namibia. Just the beauty of the area is just totally majestic. It really is. So right from here, this is not the greatest picture, I know, and I was looking for a really great picture of Moon Valley, and clearly I'm not a photographer, so I don't have any great pictures of Moon Valley. Julian, you're going to have to come and take some pictures of Moon Valley.
Yeah, sure. Next time we will drop by there for sure. And I'll pass some of these pictures for you.
But I just had to tell you, so if you're driving from Sossusvlei, with the next point that we're going to stop at, so just to tell you, I would definitely do 2 nights at Sossusvlei. 2 nights is a must at Sossusvlei. You're then going to drive about 4 hours up to Swakopmund, and we pass through an area close sort of by to Walvis Bay called Moon Valley. Moon Valley was, you know, they say millions of years old, was high mountain ranges, and due to erosion, it's sort of now these hills. And the Swakop River comes through here. But if you go there at different times of the day, it really looks like a moon landscape. Like you can just imagine that you've kind of landed on the moon here. Hence its name. This is why it's called Moon Valley. And also incredible viewpoints, depending on the time of the day that you go. The colors are completely different. It's really a beautiful, beautiful place. And then close by to Moon Valley is the Welwitschers. I mentioned the Welwitschia area, the Welwitschers last week as well. So the Welwitschers is almost like a fossil plant. It's millions of years old. And it's just a really interesting plant. It's actually made up of only 2 leaves, but through obviously erosion and the wind and the soil, it's kind of all those leaves have been ripped up, and it actually can grow to about 8 meters in circumference. But just the fact that it survives in the middle of the desert, that it's adapted itself to living a desert life, and it's such an ancient plant, makes it certainly very interesting to go and see all the Welwitschers. Then we're going to get to Swakopmund. So as I mentioned, from Sossusvlei, we're looking at about a 4-hour drive up through the Namib Clift, through Moon Valley and the Welwitschers, and then into Swakopmund. So Swakopmund is like the coastal playground of Namibia. It has a very German feel to it. It was a German colonial settlement. And you definitely, I think for me, one of the great things about, you know, if you go to Swakopmund is you really get a feel for sort of all the German food stores. You know, you've got your typical sort of German patisseries, and of course your breweries where you can go and taste German beer, and you know, your German sausages and all of that kind of thing. Lots of little cafeterias where you can go and sit. It's got a that sort of feel to it. Obviously situated here, you know, on the coast here. It's got the most incredible pier that goes out, and the lighthouse. So this is the Strand Hotel in Swakopmund. I just like the location of the Strand Hotel. As you can see here, it's got you know, it's sort of on the pier. It's got the beaches really close by, and a big concentration of food. There are at least I think 5 different restaurants at the Strand Hotel, ranging from your sort of typical pub brewery type restaurant to your patisseries, to places yeah, where they sort of serve almost tapas style meals throughout the day. Really just a great little spot, and a great location in Swakopmund. But there are numerous different options of accommodation in Swakopmund, from really great little small bed and breakfasts up to, you know, a bit much larger hotels. Really great spot. So I would say probably 2 nights in Swakopmund. The reason being is that when you are in Swakopmund, I would suggest, and we did cover it last week, but I would definitely suggest doing a day trip down to Walvis Bay. Walvis Bay is sort of 20-30 minutes south of Swakopmund, and it's the large harbour in Namibia. So this is where the cruise ships come into Walvis Bay, and obviously there's a lot of fishing. But it certainly is quite a large harbour. It's a natural harbour, surrounded. There's a sand spit which goes out, making it this most beautiful natural harbour. Lots of wildlife in this area, and I think that's what makes it such a really interesting area to visit. So it is a natural wetland area. The bird life here is really incredible. The flamingos, just masses and masses of flamingos, pelicans, cormorants, seagulls, just a really large variety of bird life, making it really beautiful. And then obviously one of the other things that's very, very popular is to do trips out into the bay. So you can either go by boat out into the bay. They often have lots of seals, you'll see whales in the bay during the whale season, sort of June to November. Dolphins in the bay. It's a really great activity to do. And of course, one can also go kayaking out into the bay. And then of course the other thing that is very well known in this area is the dunes. And this is a trip called Sandwich Harbour. And here, as you can just see by this top photograph here, just the magnificent contrast between these beautiful big sort of red orange dunes which just drop straight down into the sea, and you can do a day trip down to Sandwich Harbour or a half-day trip, but it's definitely worthwhile spending a day in and around the area of Walvis Bay. For those looking for a little bit more adventure, you've got quad biking in the dunes, you've got sandboarding, very, very popular, for those people who like the adventurous side of it. And then, of course, I think the other thing that is very popular in this area is to do flights up and down the coastline. So you can fly up and down the Skeleton Coast or south along these dunes. You can go up into the over Moon Valley, and really just beautiful, beautiful flights that you can do. And then another very popular thing here in the area is, for example, if you do the Sandwich Harbour trip, or you can go into the dunes and you go and have a picnic lunch, or even a picnic dinner in the dunes is also a possibility. So that is really just a great way to spend a day, and which is why we always sort of recommend 2 nights in Swakopmund, so that you've got at least that 1 day in between to go and explore the area around Walvis Bay. So if we look at this full itinerary that we've just done today, just to recap, we would have done 1 night in Windhoek, then the second night in the Kalahari. Night 3 would be Fish River Canyon. Night 4 and possibly 5 at Luderitz, depending on how long you want to spend at Colemans Corp. Then night 6 and 7 in Sossusvlei, and then night 8 and 9 in Swakopmund. So that is now a 9-night itinerary. For most people traveling to Namibia, we spoke about this again also last week, I really wouldn't recommend coming to Namibia for anything less than 2 weeks. If you're wanting to cover the whole of Namibia, that is really only what we call the Southern Circuit. Most people, unless you come to Namibia, sort of unless it's your second or third trip to Namibia where you're wanting to really focus on a particular area, then that's really great to do it as a 9-night, 10-day trip, the southern area. But of course, for people who are only going to come once to Namibia and want to do the whole of Namibia in sort of 2 weeks, we would adapt the southern section according to your interests. So, you know, for photographers who particularly want to do perhaps Colemans Corp and Sossusvlei, we could leave out certain other areas. We could possibly leave out Fish River Canyon, or we could leave out the Kalahari. We could possibly shorten the 1 night in Luderitz. There's ways that we can adapt this itinerary for people who wanted to do the whole of Namibia in sort of 14 nights. And next week what we'll do is we'll look at the northern section. So we'll do a trip around the northern section again, and then obviously combining them, you know, really depends on time. And we'll play around with the time factor, however many days that you've got, and then we'll make a recommendation of the route according to that. But I think, as Julian said, the one thing that you really need to realize about Namibia is it's a very big country. The distances between places are quite big. And I think maybe just to also say that from Swakopmund to get back to Windhoek is about another 4 hours drive. But the distances are, you know, are quite big, and you don't want to rush it. So, you know, you need to be driving. Most of the roads on that route, certainly that we've discussed today, most of the roads are tar roads. Obviously, if you're going to go off into the, you know, if you're going to go off into slightly more remote places, then you will be hitting some of the gravel road. The gravel roads in Namibia are very well kept. And you know, it's not a problem driving on the gravel roads at all, but obviously you need to go slightly slower. Maybe the other thing also just to mention is that when driving in Namibia, I really would not recommend doing it in anything other than at least a 2x4 vehicle or a 4x4 vehicle. So when we do car rentals in Namibia, we would basically always hire you a 4x4 vehicle to travel in. I wouldn't recommend doing it in anything less than that. Yeah. So, anything you'd like to add to that, Julian?
Yeah, sure. I actually secretly in the background, Nikki and myself were like working out a really interesting itinerary, right? For photographers, especially for first timers into Namibia. Okay, but the thing is that just be prepared that to look at the 2 weeks itinerary. Because the other thing is that we have also taken into consideration the driving tolerance, you know, of people in this region. Generally, we don't really drive that long distance. So one day we just limit the number of kilometers that we will travel in the vehicle. And also just to maximize the time that you have at the attractions rather than spending all your time driving from one location to another. So do keep a lookout on our website, toplinersclub.com. And that will happen pretty soon, okay? And hopefully, once the restrictions are lifted, personally, myself, I'm actually secretly hoping for a trip to get there, you know, like maybe in July next year. Yeah, so I guess that will be
about June, July.
Yeah, June, July, yes. So talking about that, we have a question from Eugene, you know, and Eugene is actually asking, how's the weather like the maximum and minimum temperature, and at the best time of the year? So I reckon to say maybe the best time would be June or July, which coincidentally is actually the winter period, okay, for Namibia. Yeah, so Nikki, you may want to advise on the weather, yeah, for that time, the
Sure.
temperature.
Sure. I would say definitely the best time to go to Namibia is during their winter time. The days are absolutely beautiful. Shorts and a t-shirt. You know, certainly in the 20 degrees during the day, 20 to 30 degrees during the day. Beautiful daytime temperatures. The temperature does drop at night though, definitely. So it can get down to, depending on where you are in Namibia, you know, it can definitely get down to sort of 5 degrees at night, 5 to 10 degrees at night during winter. But you know, beautiful, beautiful daytime temperatures. Peak season in Namibia is July and August to coincide with the European market. They're obviously their main holiday season. If at all possible, I would try and avoid July, August, purely because the properties get booked up way in advance and really availability becomes a bit of a problem. And obviously there's more people around. So if you can avoid July, August and come in June, that would be best bet. Even September, October, great. During the summer months, it can get very hot in Namibia, so it really depends on your tolerance for the heat. Temperatures can definitely get up to 40 degrees during December, January time. Very little rainfall in Namibia. As you can see, it is a desert region, and if the rains do come in, it's really in the form of sort of more thunder shower, you know, short bursts of rain. You're not going to have days worth of rain at all. And the other thing is that during, you can imagine with the incredible differences in temperature between the sand dunes and the cold currents. So actually it's the cold Benguela current that comes up this side of the coastline, which comes up from the Antarctic. So it's really cold water here. I must just warn you, swimming in the sea is really cold. That's what makes this country so interesting, I think. It's just the huge contrast between this really icy cold sea and the cold current, quite wild ocean, and then this sort of the dunes. But obviously what it does lead to is often along the coastline, you get, especially in the summer months, you get fog or mist developing along that coastal route. Which is why last week we also spoke about the Skeleton Coast, which has got so many shipwrecks there. I think a lot of it due to the fog and the rough seas around that area. But yeah, so I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, yeah, so let's look at June, July. Try to avoid July, yeah, as much as we can. Yeah. So, but June will be a good time. Actually, this year we are supposed to be there in June, you know. Yeah, but just due to COVID, we couldn't make it. Okay. So we also have a question from Alan. Alan is asking, is astrophotography allowed in dead clay? Okay, you know, he believes that actually a permit is actually required to get into there at night.
Into where? Sossusvlei?
Sossusvlei, dead clay area, yeah.
Most of the lodges will offer some form of astrophotography. So for example, where I showed you at Kalahari Desert Lodge, obviously they have telescopes, and they really do, they put quite a lot of focus on that, in fact. Quite a lot of the lodges in this area will have their own, you know, will do sort of presentations in the evening around the stars.
Yeah, I guess what Alan is saying is that, you know, he would hope to be at the iconic places, like for example, Dune 45. You know, and then do the astro there. Yeah. But as far as I know, it's not possible. Yeah. No, it's not possible. No, yeah. No. Yes.
Yeah, I would think at the end of the day, you know, yeah, I'm not sure if it really is that important that you're at the dunes, you know, while you're doing astrophotography. But yeah.
It's just you know, the foreground, and then you have a beautiful foreground with the stars at the back, you know, so it's always about the foreground for photographers, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it is. Yeah. But unfortunately, it'll be hard for this one. But nevertheless, we can always find out to see if there could be some special arrangement. You never know, or special permit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anything is possible. The only thing is you just need to ask. Yeah. Okay. So right. And then we have also a question from Ian. Ian is asking how's like the shopping experience like in Namibia.
Look, obviously, in Windhoek, they've got a lovely arts and crafts center in Windhoek, which definitely, if you've got a little bit of extra time, that's a great place to just go. If you've got a half a day to go and shop there. Swakopmund as well, you can go shopping. If you're looking sort of in the more rural areas, you're going to find arts and crafts on the side of the road in certain areas. But I would say besides, it's not a massive shopping destination as such, but certainly in Windhoek, you can definitely find some great places.
Okay, great. Yeah. So hope that answered your question, Ian. Okay. And then, unfortunately, King has to leave early for this, but then she said that she has been there in August last year. Wow. Okay, nice. So jealous. Okay, all right. So yeah, Liang Hong is saying that need preparation time and hopefully next year we could go there. Yeah, I think a lot of us is also looking forward to that. And certainly we do hope that the trip will materialize next year. Yeah. So do we have any more questions coming from our friends here today? Yeah. So again, while you all are thinking of your question, so the thing is that to get to Namibia, my recommendation is that you fly into Johannesburg via Singapore Airlines. Okay, that will take you 10.5 hours from Singapore. Generally, you will fly, let me recall, I think it's SQ478. Okay, SQ478, you'll fly from Singapore at 1:30 in the morning, and then you'll reach Johannesburg at 6:25. Okay, and 6:25, and then you can, I don't think you'll be enough time to actually take the morning flight from Johannesburg, right, for Nikki, because I think the Air Namibia flight is 6 something also. Yeah. So you probably have to wait a little while at the airport, right? And go for some nice breakfast, and then get on to the airline Air Namibia for 2.5 hours. And then you should be there by about noon time, I think. Yeah. And yeah. So then you will always then be able to start your day from there. Okay. So Palita is asking, how does a typical meal or a local cuisine looks like?
Okay, Namibia's got quite a German influence, so I would say very sort of European style, foods. Yeah, sort of the food is generally great, and I would say quite European in flavor.
Okay. Yeah. So I believe the food is actually quite good. Okay. That as long as you don't have any dietary requirements, but if you do have them, then that could also be arranged much earlier. If you could just let us know, we can actually make the arrangement. That is, of course, if you book through us. But if not, you can always look for your travel agent to let them know your special dietary requirement. But otherwise, the food is actually quite good, so it's more European food, and I'm sure you all will like it too. All right, yeah. The only thing is that there's no rice, okay? Yeah, so rice is hard to find. Yeah, and
potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes. So the thing is that you just have to be prepared to be what we call homesick, but this is rice sick, yeah, so you don't get to eat rice for 2 weeks. Okay. Yeah, so just be prepared for that.
I can always organize it for you if you need the rice.
Oh, you see, but Nikki, it's always different the way they cook it and the way you cook it.
I know.
Yeah, it's always different. Okay, so anyway, and I guess that thank you, Palita, for asking this very important question. I guess especially for female travelers, they'd like to know how's the general infrastructure, especially washroom. You know, for ladies, it's very, very important. Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean, the infrastructure generally is absolutely, you know, the lodges are absolutely fantastic, and you know, top quality in terms of you know, the washrooms and all of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, we're very selective also about which properties that we use.
Mm. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So the washroom will definitely be okay. But what happened during your trip if you have to drive 5 hours and you need the washroom?
Oh no, we obviously stop en route. We obviously stop en route, and we stop at very respectable places.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope that answered your question, Palita. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, you'll have the washroom along the way too. Okay. Yeah. So Karen was saying that cannot do without with the capital on. You know, without rice for 2 weeks. Can you see that? Okay. Yeah. So you know, Karen, the thing is that you can nowadays in Singapore supermarkets we have those instant rice. You know, I don't know what's the brand that you have, but the one there you can actually just heat it up with hot water. Okay, yeah, something like our army food, you know. But they have very, very nice flavors like nasi biryani and the rest of the stuff. So I think that would do to quench that hunger, you know, or that
We'll definitely
thirst.
let the chefs know. We'll definitely let the
Yeah,
chefs know that there needs to be rice.
yeah. But we have found some of this actually now in the supermarkets. You know, very, very nice flavored, packed well with even some there where you can just pour in cold water and then you can warm up the entire dish. So we have some of this already available now. Yeah, and we can use that. The instant rice cannot take on board. Jelly said the instant rice cannot take on board. Oh, not the one where you have the pack with the heat pack. Okay, but I think the one, is it by Prima? Prima Taste or something like that. You have like the nasi biryani and stuff like that. It's just one pack by itself where you have to heat it with warm water. I'm not sure if that one can take on board though. I seriously thought that it can. Okay, because there's no heating element or any alcohol or anything inside there, you know. So you can normally just put into the luggage and carry that on. Yeah, correct. So Jelly said yes, that one can. Okay, so she has given her endorsement. Yeah, next time we'll carry it on board and people can live with rice in Namibia now. No problem. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the one that you just need to carry in. Okay. Yeah. And you'll be all right. So you see, those are important things for especially Asians. We need rice, or else we can't see properly. You know, the landscape will all look the same to us.
That would be terrible.
Okay. All right. So do we have any other questions? We are coming up to time now, and I see that there are no more questions for now. And we'll just give another 30 seconds before we end this session, okay? Yeah. And if you have more questions, please keep them coming. We'll be really happy to do this and answer your questions. Okay, so as always, you know, Nikki, I have to do my this part to thank you for doing this. You know, you have been doing this for the past 13 sessions now, you know, and we still have quite a bit to go. And really, this is not easy work to put everything together. So thank you so much for all the effort to do this. And yeah, just thank you on behalf of everyone here too. So indeed that Namibia is a really, really interesting country, you know. So for those of you who haven't actually planned Namibia or you're looking at Africa in general of where to go, I think there's two countries that you should really look at. Okay, so number one is basically Namibia. Number two is basically South Africa. Okay, yeah, because that is also where Nikki is based, and Nikki can tell you all the countless good things of South Africa. Okay, and that's also one of my favorite countries actually. So do keep a lookout for these two countries, and then plan your trip, and hope the restrictions will be lifted really, really fast. Okay, and then we can all travel again. All right, yeah. So thank you everyone. We don't see any more questions now. Okay, yeah, and thank you, and hope that you will all have a great time ahead for this week. Okay, and hope to see you back again next week. All right, yeah. So Nikki, yeah, and thank you. Okay, and thank you everyone, and see you guys next week again. Okay, bye bye.
Bye everyone.